Like several of the Democratic candidates for U.S. Senate, State Senator Angela Williams considers former Colorado Gov. John Hickenlooper to be a friend and a colleague. Hickenlooper may soon be an opponent, as well, a front-running Senate candidate practically handpicked by powerful Democratic interests in the nation's capital to take on Republican Sen. Cory Gardner in November 2020. State Democratic insiders agree that Hickenlooper would be a formidable candidate against Gardner, but a majority of the 11 Democratic candidates already in the field want Hickenlooper to know they won't be rolling over if he decides to run for the Senate. He has his aspirations, and we can't control what he does, but what I'm concerned about is Washington insiders interfering with Colorado voters in their selection of a Democratic nominee, Williams said in an interview Thursday morning, hours before Hickenlooper ended his presidential run. I believe women and people of color deserve a voice in the United States Senate. He'll have a fight on his hands, Williams added. That's what I believe. She accused Hickenlooper of attacking the progressive values of women and people of color on issues like healthcare reform during his ill-fated run for president. If he's going to switch gears and run for the Senate, he has a lot to explain to Colorado voters, she said later in an emailed statement. This won't be a coronation. Hickenlooper announced Thursday that he has ended his presidential campaign and is seriously considering a run for the Senate. Recent polling of Hickenlooper and several other potential Democratic candidates indicates he would be an early favorite to win the Democratic primary and a strong competitor against Gardner. The Yuma Republican is a key target for the National Party in its effort to win a Senate majority. I've heard from so many Coloradans who want me to run for the United States Senate, Hickenlooper said in the video announcing an end to his presidential run. They remind me how much is at stake for our country, and our state. I intend to give that some serious thought, Andrew Romanoff, a former Colorado House Speaker and a top-tier candidate in the Senate race, said Thursday that Hickenlooper's entry into the contest wouldn't change his approach. Romanoff says he has received no assurance from Hickenlooper that he won't run for the Senate. What I heard Gov. Hickenlooper tell everybody who asked he wasn't cut out to be a senator and didn't want the job. Look, I respect that. I respect him, Romanoff told KOA News Radio. Later in the day, during a campaign stop in West Denver, Romanoff was asked how he will fend off criticisms of his more liberal bent. When I win this race, it won't be because of the National Democratic Party leadership, he said, adding that they prefer somebody else. Several other top-tier candidates, including former state Sen. Mike Johnston, former U.S. Attorney John Walsh and Dan Baer, who served in Hickenlooper's administration, declined to say whether they will remain in the race if Hickenlooper joins. But candidates Trish Thornio, Stephanie Rose Spalding, Alice Madden, Lorena Garcia and Diana Bray said they will remain in the race. Hickenlooper's entry into the race wouldn't change a thing for me, said Bray, a clinical psychologist and environmentalist running for the Senate, and I'm confident that most people in Colorado are looking for a new, progressive vision. He doesn't offer anything different from what other establishment Dems are offering. Colorado, in its nearly century and a half of existence, has never elected a woman or African American to the Senate. Many Colorado Democrats want to change that trend this year, but Hickenlooper's entry into the Senate race could crush their hope and ultimately leave Colorado's Senate seats in the hands of two white men who graduated from Wesleyan University. And for many of Colorado's progressive activists, the idea of being represented in the Senate by two moderate Democrats, Hickenlooper and Sen. Michael Bennet, also feels like a missed opportunity. The current Democratic slate of candidates has several Medicare for All supporting, Green New Deal backing liberals. To pass on those candidates for a pro-business moderate who supports the oil and gas industry would be a disappointment, many of them say. When Katie Farnan, a leader of the progressive political group Indivisible, heard Hickenlooper may run for the Senate, she let out an audible groan. "We probably don't get to have an actual progressive woman of color in that seat," Farnan said, calculating that Hickenlooper's outsized name recognition and statewide appeal would trounce any of the other dozen candidates, of which more than half are women. On the other hand, she said, if Hickenlooper were the nominee, Democrats would be sure to oust Gardner. Nicole Melarku, executive director of the immigrant rights group Cirque Action, said she would be excited to see a candidate as popular as Hickenlooper enter the race. Cirque and its national affiliates plan to play a role in a Senate contest. "It'll come down to how he showed up as a governor," she said, highlighting his work on protecting young immigrants in Colorado, especially during his last years in office. "We are at this moment where we have an electric electorate. And time is running out for people who talk the talk but don't fight for the community," Shad Murab, a policy advisor on Gov. Jared Polis' 2018 campaign, said the gap between the progressive and moderate wings of the state's Democratic Party isn't as consequential as some political watchers may think. "There is no Democrat more beloved than John Hickenlooper," Murab said. "Poll after poll shows that. It has just as much to do with his style as substance. When you go out and talk with real voters, they're really happy with how Colorado was running during his tenure. That's going to be really hard to overcome for another candidate, because that's built into their mindset. Let's block ads.